So we have two EIPs to go through today. We have EIP 5792, which is the wallet call API. All right, so this is 5792. It is a batched transaction RPC endpoint. So this is probably relevant for anybody who builds a smart contract wallet or who's planning on using 3074 or 7702 at some point in the future. It allows you to create a batch of calls using wallet_send calls. And you can also specify certain capabilities that you want. So say you want like all of the calls to succeed or all of them to revert. So at Atomicity, you can do that through something called capabilities. You can also get the status of calls and yeah, so it's basically the batch transaction API that people have been asking for. And it's going into last call, I believe, or it's going to final next week. So this is your last chance to comment on it. Again, if you're planning on supporting any kind of batch transactions, you should definitely go and check this out and take a look at it. Does anybody have any questions about the CIP?
Hi, I had a question, Sam. Can you expand on what can be put in the capabilities field for the batch calls?
Sure. So I'm not an author of this EIP, so I can't, like, I'm not the authoritative source of the information, but the only capability that I know right now is for atomicity, and it is specified here. So you can say you want to ask for atomic batch, and then where is it here? Yeah, so it can execute them all in a single transaction. So that would be the only mode that this supports. And then you can add other capabilities later, but this is the only one that's defined. And then Shane, so JSON RPC does have batching, but EIP 1193 does not have batching. So this also supports that interface. Oh, cool. That's exciting. So yeah, I would definitely leave a comment to that effect on this discussion thread, because I think they're kind of designing this to be both batching and atomicity and stuff. So yeah, definitely let them know that you're working on it. Great. Okay. So let's move on to the second scheduled topic here, which would be ERC20 payment reference extension. And I'll turn the floor over to Radek, and they can explain it.
Hi, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yep, you sound great.
Awesome, thanks. So I was just going to second. Let me take this one. Okay, can you still hear me?
Yep.
Perfect, because I needed to change the mic as well. Sorry for that. Okay, so for the ERC for this extension, it's a generic extension to the ERC20s, and it just adds the capability to transfer the payment reference or transfer reference, as we can call, aside the regular transfer. So basically, it overrides the. I don't know if you are still sharing the screen to show the that ERC.
I can.
Yes, please. Um,
There we go.
yeah, thank you. So the one of the issues is that regarding the ERC20s and specifically stable coins, the people are not able to add any message for the beneficiary, and this types of the messages is very often used to for the reconciliation of the whatever invoices, inquiries, anything towards the payments. So this is the reason why I actually submitted this. It is upon a long-term discussion within the DeFi community over here in Europe. Um, and it should work for the, I would say, the new ERC20s and those which are upgradable, so they could actually add these. There is the related discussion on the Ethereum magicians, where we are trying to align a little bit on naming and and the types and so on. So the current result, or let's say a 1 month old result, is here in this pull request, which is implementation wise on the contract level. It's very limited and very easy. But the reason for this minimalism is for the to get the broad consensus on this interface, and this has the impact on you as the bullets, and that's also the question to you as the wallet providers or the builders, whether you are willing to create that additional UI field that would enable the users to actually submit the message for the beneficiary. So that's the key question.
So, just to provide some context from our users on this, I think there's probably other folks that do have good use cases for this. And in our UI, we do let folks put a reference, but most of the time, folks want that information private, and it's likely not something they want on chain that's publicly visible. So, I think there might be mixed use cases of folks that want it publicly on chain versus.
Yeah. The I can tell you the very common use case which is happening, I would say, on the almost regular basis, and it is that the centralized exchanges, they when they collect the ERC20s, they have to provide a different account, EVM account number for their clients, for each of the client actually to collect that, to pair that payment or to pay the transfers, whatever the client wants to do there, then or actually submit that ERC20 towards the SEX, and then the consequence is that they has have to sweep it from thousands of accounts at a certain moment, and you could see it on almost like regular basis that in January was also like a huge sweep by the Binance, for instance. So once there would be the option to provide um, this message for the beneficiary, then the CESIS could just ask their clients to send these ERC20 tokens towards one like collectible, sorry, not collectible, like one towards one account for the collection of those ERC20s, and they would just reconcile by those messages. Honestly, I cannot understand why this was omitted in the ERC20 standard as such, because originally we have the message in the even like on the EVM level, right? Which is used by the context, so but it is there. And when I was doing the research on the MetaMask, and I can see that there are a few MetaMask folks over here, I know that you are like supporting this sort of for the Ethereum native token, uh, but in like advanced settings sort of type where the user would need to switch it on, and then it is more like that the user could like add the call data. So it's a little bit different, and of course, it is not for the ERC20s.
So I have two questions.
Uh-huh.
So the first one is, can you do something like this with a smart contract account and an approve and transfer from flow? So instead of just sending an ERC20 to like an address, you call a function on the address and it handles all of this as opposed to modifying the token itself.
This is common right now. There are like a wrappers, let's say, that would enable, or I would call them wrappers. So when I was researching some of those payment options, um, I found those solutions that you have like a intermediary contract, which you call with sending with a specific like transfer or just something specific, and then you have to give it the approval and so on, and it does then the transfer from and proceeds towards the underlying ERC20, I would say. And so the service or the merchant, the beneficiary, the other side, has the option to use this intermediate contract to actually map those payments or these like transfer invocations with their whatever invoices. So this is a little some sort of a strange workaround when actually it would be much easier and much more like um, simplified way of working when we had this originally in ERC20 as such, as part of the transfer function. It is not there, so this is like overloading that with a new signature basically. But as you can see on the detail, it's purely overloading of the transfer and transfer from, adding that payment reference. And as I mentioned before, in the Ethereum Magicians, we had a discussion that the naming should be a little bit different, but the core stays the same. Have I answered your question?
Yeah, I think so. So it's just extra overhead to have the contract handle emitting the event.
Yeah,
Is basically,
yeah.
yeah, okay.
And it's fully up to the contract what the contract would do with that. So the only thing which we concluded over here with a bunch of the people uh, is that there should be there should be a lock emitted for this transfer, and we also discussed, and that's what you can see in the Ethereum Magician discussion. I don't know if some could open that. That there were different options discussed, and the conclusion, uh, yeah, this one, yes. One of the conclusion was whether we should also submit the lock to emit the lock in any case, even if the regular transfer was invoked. So so that the indexers or the wallets could fully depend. If the ERC20 token has this extension, then it could just follow purely this lock, which is almost like duplicate one, but it has that message for the beneficiary or the payment reference included.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, and so I think that my second question is, can you achieve something very similar by just appending the payment reference on the end of the call data, or will Solidity revert if you do that? And
Well,
this isn't specifically a question for you, just for the room.
yeah, I would answer on that because we also discussed that within the BFI group over here in Prague. And the problem is that once you are like targeting for the regular users and who are like just using the wallets, they fully depend on the user interface there. So if the UI doesn't have that option to add this, then they are not able to do that. So technically, you and me, we could do it, right? To add the correlator there as it is with the, I don't know, the trusted forwarder, for instance, and so on. But for the day-to-day use of the regular DeFi slash NFT user, it's basically impossible.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. Thank you.
So I would like to hear your opinion, specifically you guys. If you could go like around the around the wallet representatives over here. I see that there's a Shane from MetaMask, and there might be some others from the other wallets as well. I discussed with some of the wallets during the East Prague who are like supporting this. but those were minor ones, I would say. Uh, so please, if you could give your opinion on that.
Yeah, like, oh, can you hear me? Okay, there we go. Yeah, like I said in chat, I think um, to Sam's point, I think there's lots of protocols using something similar to this, right? And uh, like you said, this for ERC20, so it doesn't really help on NFTs or anything like that. But what people have been using to kind of, they were just like stuffing the end of call data with their own kind of analytics. Um, I I know it's not exactly what you're trying to do here, but that's what I've seen in the wild. What people are using right now to do this same kind of thing on chain.
So how do they do it in MetaMask? This if they don't use any other like front end UI and they will just use the extension.
Yeah, so they'll make a transaction like a transfer, and then they will stick, whatever extra data they want. They'll stick it at the end of the call data, which is like sneaky, but like it still works, right?
Yeah. I was trying to find a note and I didn't really realize how this could be done with the MetaMask only. So I don't want to bother you guys over here with the question
Yeah,
on this.
this isn't like a MetaMask only thing. You can submit a normal transaction that has extra call data at the end.
No,
Yeah. So when you build the like you use your library to encode it, like your function call, and then you just concatenate some bytes on the end.
I'm a smart contract developer, so I do this sort of adding the core data from the command line. So my confusion is rather about the for the regular folks who are using MetaMask UI, for instance, or Rebbe, or something. Um, that we didn't find a way that this could be possible. You know.
Oh, so you're talking about like you're not on a DApp. You're just in the MetaMask wallet, and you want to
Yeah.
send some ERC20.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Because that's very common. We discuss here with the centralized exchanges, and this is very common actually that they instruct the people like you would just find whatever there is the instructions for the MetaMask, how to install it, how to use it, and here you just click send to send the ERC20. So this is like a common instruction for the regular users. And obviously that's let's say payment reference field or whatever you could call it is missing. Yes, they don't know how to instruct them on this in the easy manner.
Yeah, it's not something that
Uh,
a user can do.
yeah. Here's the question: why don't centralized exchanges use what was the window that because that instruction towards their clients is not from within the front end that only it goes via different channels and so on, so it's almost it could be on the workshop, they are just telling the people in the same way as you send the ERC20 to someone, you just send it to us as the exchange.
Makes sense. So it almost sounds like you're asking not necessarily for ERC20 tokens to make any particular change, although that is what the EIP is specifically asking for. It's more that you're asking wallets to create a UI for adding a payment reference in some
Yes,
way. Yeah. Okay.
yes, exact. Well, it needs to be facilitated by both, right? So if we as the ecosystem, if we agree on this sort of the interface, then yeah, the ERC20s that would like to support it, then they would need to implement the interface, right? And and both the wallets would need to implement the UI. So It's almost like a chicken and egg problem. Who does it first?
I think I could see this more so being used lower level, where it's not actually like a user inputted thing, but maybe like maybe a unique ID from like a centralized exchange
No,
or
no, no.
some sort of e-commerce platform. Because I think for a lot of users, they probably don't. There's oftentimes they don't want to have to put that information in. It just adds overhead a lot of the time.
Um, this is the part which we also discussed, and it's a little bit elaborated in the ERC. Because there is definitely a privacy aspect. If you, because for some of the transactions, specifically in Europe, you might need to put there almost like a sensitive identifier, for instance, like the birthday number, for example. That's quite common, actually. So there is a suggestion, that there will be rather generated some hash of that or something, but not by the wallets. That would purely go onto the merchants when we could consider those centralized exchanges as the merchants as well. And then they would just reconcile towards this number, which would be submitted. So this this was the reason why we actually made it as the just the bytes core data, so that anything could be submitted there, which would enable that reconciliation, right? And just to remark, this is not only the issue of the sexes; it's the issues of the merchants as well, who would like to receive the payments as the transfers. And the reason why we are or I'm opening that, because we are creating now the stablecoin, and we saw this as some missing piece of some traditional finance functionality which is there, as it's also mentioned here on the screen share. When you use the Swift, SEPA, or even like the local national transfers, it's always there the option for the payment reference or for the message for the beneficiary to be like practically named there. What if we just standardize no external named payment reference at the end of the call data? As a question from Sam. Um,
Yeah, like we just come up with a standard format for encoding this. We stick it on the end of call data and wallet UI, and that would be the standard.
uh, no, so why would we do that in the like hacky way that we would like add the call data um towards the trap? Because I think what
Well,
you're
so you
mentioning
don't have to
here.
do it again for NFTs, right? And again for smart contract accounts or something, or whatever the new format is, right?
Yeah. Uh. Okay. A specific part. So what some wrote here is the idea that we would use the regular transfer as it is now, and there will be like extra like call it a piece added at the end with X9A and plus this. Um. Or general pattern protocols. I'm not sure about the implications when you consider also the trusted forwarded, which also has the edit to call data. So whether there could be any issues on the contract level.
Yeah, that would definitely be a problem. I think this would only be in the transaction call data. You wouldn't want to forward it like through the forwarder. But I'm not super familiar with 4337, so
Well, the transfer forwarder, it actually just adds the the 20 bytes at the end of the call data. So um, when you're using the assembler to read that and edit or adjust that sort of like a message sender uh, by this value. Uh, and it has I don't like this sort of like the hacky pattern because it has the implications on the security. And there was the issue with the multi-call and this transfer forwarder uh, when used together. It's being patched now by OpenZPLN. But I understand your point, or who said that, whether Shane or someone, that it would be annoying to have to add it towards the NFTs or the other things. This particular ERC is purely focusing on ERC20s. Um,
I mean, also it'd be annoying for tokens that already exist that don't have this functionality, right? It's not like you can add this to a non-upgradable
yeah,
contract.
that's correct. With the existing ones, well, the point is that this is actually optional. So even for the new ones, and even if they have that, this the filling out this field would be optional, and then would be by it would it would be your call as the wallet software, whether in that case you would call the regular transfer or whether you would call or overload the transfer with the I don't know, with byte zero or something, so um which function you would call, it would be up to you, not up to the user, I guess. um and for the existing ones which are non-upgradable, they would not be able to use that. That's clear. For those upgraded ones, I can imagine that Circle is from time to time that they are upgrading USDC. I haven't seen any upgrades on USDT, and I think everyone over here knows that unfortunate thing regarding the USDT and the return values and so on. So I do not expect the USDT to add there anything, but we would then be literally stuck on that bad design which was done there. Hmm. Uh, there was interesting question over here by Mandan, whether MetaMask snaps would allow that in the Wallet UI via extra call data.
Yeah, it's. I don't. I think we. It sounds like our snaps do not. We don't have endowments, is what we call them, like a sort of capability to edit the transaction information like that quite yet. So it's still a little short of facilitating something like this.
Mhm. 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 So, uh, so anyway, this would need to have your support in the UI. Is this correct?
If there's something that you need support for in the MetaMask UI, typically that is done through something like snaps. If there is a new endowment that would be necessary to enable the type of snap that you want to create, then I think there is something. We have a snap improvement proposal, so you can propose addition of like that kind of endowment there. I can post a link for that in case you're interested in going down that route.
I just wonder how many people over here are from Europe, where it is common to use this approach with the transfers, or whether most of you guys are here from the States, where I guess it is not that common for the wire transfers to use at all and to use this. So, is there anyone who actually experienced this with the traditional finance to use the payment reference, or sometimes called as the um, memo to the?
I'm pretty old. I remember writing memos on paper checks in America.
Oh yeah,
I think I've also heard about someone from, I think it was the Maya protocol, was explaining to me that they do cross-chain transactions with this memo field, which is standard, or not standard, common in a lot of Bitcoin wallets. Like you can append some sort of arbitrary data, and if you they have some sort of bridge where you have to, the end user has to copy paste like an arbitrary token into the memo of a transaction into the void, and then it just pops up on another chain. So I know, I mean, I do wonder. It's an interesting UX thing, but it's kind of a chicken egg problem until enough wallets do it that dApps can say, come with one of these wallets, because you'll need to append some arbitrary data.
yeah. It's that's very much correct. Yes, it's chicken and egg, and you have the case over here. As I mentioned, we are building the stablecoin fiat backed, so we will have to have it there anyway, in some way. Um, so you have that one part on the chicken partially solved. uh,
Got
of
half a
course,
chicken.
yeah, we are half the chicken because we are not circle, of course. Or we are not tether. I can imagine if circle or tether would did that, then you would like follow, right? So that would be the full chicken. Um, and as I mentioned, I do not expect Tether to add it, because even if you think about the off-chain signatures, for instance, it's not there by Tether. So the um, so what would be the best way to actually proceed further with this? Mhm. Because just to give you more idea, that there were like two consequences. So one thing was the invocation, which means that it would be that call it the bytes reference, and the other thing was the emitting of the event, where the event would be extended also by that. So there were those two things. Guys, I do not want to further keep you over here on this topic. So if you just give the conclusion, and I will then try to talk also to the indexers.
Oh wait, did I think Sam stepped out? Was he running the meeting?
Yeah, he left.
Okay, well, okay. So I guess there's no other agenda. Is okay. Well, I mean, I think I did find interesting the proposal of making a more general convention, like, even just retro specifying it if it's already convention being used. But I do think that getting wallets to adopt it using it for the NFT, the ERC20 case, and generalizing it or building it into 4337 wallets are like three totally different strategies, and like you probably have to do all three eventually for the stablecoin. So like just thinking of it as an order of operations problem, like where can you get traction first, or where does someone have a business case to build this tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
Is just my intuition, my intuitive answer. I don't know if that helps though. Yeah. True.
What do you mean provide reference implementations to solve chicken and egg problem?
I think Radek, was that you speaking? Yeah. So I am basically initiating and then also like advocating for this approach where if we have this certain practice and we want to make them a standard, being a standard means they can be adopted by smart contract, they can be adopted by wallets, so they can interoperate, right, and or the apps. There's always a chicken and egg problem, because if no one adopts it from one of the sides, it doesn't create a lot of incentive for the other side to adopt it, because no one would use them. So anyone who want to propose such standard or such practice can provide reference implementation first and go around advocating adopting them, but make it as easy as possible. So in real life, we have this repository that I can share. If you want, you can kind of look at it, but it's a small contract level thing. I don't know if it's particularly relevant to all AllWalletDevs, to everyone in AllWalletDevs, but the general practice I would advocate is to provide implementations and make it easier for people to adopt. Half the chicken, yeah, basically.
And these are implementations on the like client level, or it is on the smart contract level?
So this particular one I share was about smart contract. The context was that back then we were proposing ERCs and we were trying to say, hey, OpenZeppelin, can you include them? And OpenZeppelin was saying like, hey, if no one is adopting them, we don't want it to be on library. And I said, if no one is adopting, is including in them in the library, then no one will easily use them, and it just impede the adoption speed. So I go ahead to create this repository to allow people to adopt.
Yeah. Thank you for this comment, because that resonated well. That it will best, besides that reference implementation, the very minimalistic one, which is within the URC proposal, that it would be ideal to create a pull request towards the OpenZeppelin and ask them whether to include it. And once it is there, then it's one step further for the chicken and egg, right?
That's true.
Yeah, but one of the reasons why I actually am on this call is that we are actually implementing this into the stablecoin smart contract, and in basically this minimalistic manner, because the only thing which we want is that it's visible on the Explorer, on the indexers, and it's visible for the UI of the wallets. And the thing is that what I would like to avoid is that we implement it somehow, and then there will be a conclusion that it would have a different form or a structure or something 1 year later. So this is something which I would like to avoid. What would be the best steps to do this sort of the avoidance and to get the mutual consensus, at least on the forum, even if you do not proceed with your implementation on your sides?
That's a very, very important question. And then I personally or our team personally experienced the same problem that you have already. For example, I'm happy that Dan is here because one of the contacts in last AllWalletDevs I raised is that we were here to present that we happily implemented EIP 747 only to realize that, and then we're very happy to present to our wallet group and says, hey, everyone, this is great. We should let wallet easily add assets, right, that user wants. And then only to know that the original proposer, which is MetaMask, shift to a different standard. The MetaMask team says, well, we realize there's some problems. We don't really like how the EIP was drafted. And then so we shifted over to use MIP1. And so that happens to us. So the whole point of having a standard is that people have a way to discuss, to agree, and to commit to a consensus. Yeah, I share the pain with you. We should discuss how we can solve them. I don't have a good answer. I'm advocating for people to share the reference implementation, test them out, have adoption, and finalize the implementation, finalize the standard.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else to have any feedback or conclusion on this? Okay, everyone else is already on their own business. So thank you all for listening to that, and you at least know about this ERC. I will do minor adjustments. If any of you guys would give or put any comments into the Ethereum Magicians discussion, I would really appreciate that. Even like directions where to go, with whom to discuss it, or where to make some agreement or consensus with, and so on. I'm really willing to push this forward because, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is common in when transferring the value, that there is the option to pass the message to the beneficiary. Somehow it was omitted for the ERC20. So this is to fix it. Thanks a lot.